Well, welcome to this thought for the day. It's Monday, the 30th of March, and today's thought for the day has been inspired a bit by some of the conversations I've been having, and also from a saint called Therese of Lisieux, one of my favourite Christian mystics, who in her own life, as with many of the saints, suffered greatly and had her periods of suffering. And that's the topic I'm going to give a bit of a thought for. Well, use Teresa as a means by which to ask us a question, really. And none of us ever wish to have suffering in our lives, but I think what the example of Jesus did was the incarnate Christ here on earth, was that actually to be fully human is to engage in things that will lead to some form of suffering in our lives. I think the suffering's inevitable, not predetermined, and there might be things that we can do to minimize the likelihood of having suffering, but they normally deaden us to the rest of the world. And in order to fully live a fully human life, to love lots, to do all those sorts of things, we have to take some risks at times, and those things sometimes take us down a path where suffering happens. Not that it's ever wished upon us. And at this time where we are forced into our homes and isolated, and perhaps our usual daily routines, even our purpose in life, the thing that we used to jump out of bed for to engage in, may have been taken from us. And in my conversations with some people, they are really struggling with this period of isolation, whether it be because they can't have the physical contact with people that they themselves really need, or whether it's the fact that they struggle with being confined to one spot, or that their sense of purpose, their job, their vocation is curtailed in some way at this time. All this can be considered a suffering. Some may even be suffering from ill health due to the virus. All these things cause us to ponder. For some of us, this period of isolation starts off quite well because that suits our personalities. But even people such as myself who have hermit-like tendencies need others, and we need contact with others. So given a couple of weeks' time, if you ask me the same question, well, I may too be struggling with the isolation aspect. And Therese of Lisieux says this is a quote from her: "It is true, I suffer a great deal, but do I suffer well? That is the question." And for us as Christians, we sort of acknowledge that, if our Lord and Christ, the one that we follow, was called to periods of suffering, and the greatest of all suffering, the redemptive power of what he did on the cross, we are unlikely to escape suffering too. The great promise of the Christian faith is that in the midst of all life, both in the good parts and in the parts that are the suffering, Christ walks with us in solidarity, having walked there before us. But that question does pop up. Well, if suffering at times is inevitable, well, how do we suffer well? What does it look like to suffer well? And I'm not sure I'm able to offer an answer to that. I don't presume to. I can say what helps me through periods such as this. That is the development of a routine and structured day, starting off in the morning with contemplative prayer, and I'm about to go into a corporate morning prayer, and there will be other things I do through this day that punctuate it and keep me to have some structure. So I find those things helping me to make more meaning in the current circumstances, and to sit with the fact that I can't do the things I usually do. For yourselves, you may have different routines, different things that help you to move through these periods, or you may not have discovered them yet. Perhaps I would recommend a structured day. It may not be the structure you're used to, but it may bring about surprising fruits of developing new structures, new patterns of life, things that may sustain us even when all this is over. I might put some links to various things that have helped me over the years as we journey together at this time. Obviously, keeping in contact with others via means of telephone or Zoom or whatever it may be also helps us in our isolation, and helps us to feel not so alone, and not having lost our usual purpose in life. So I hope you will journey with me at this time when there is great suffering around, into learning how we might, as Therese of Lisieux says, suffer well.